Welcome to Elevating Your Life, where each episode is dedicated to sharing valuable information, useful techniques, and empowering inspiration so that you can experience personal and physical abundance. Success and happiness are within your reach. I am your go-to gal who will help you find your happiness triggers and a true elevated life. I am your host, Paula Vail. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Oh my gosh, we are going to have fun today. I have with us today Douglas Vermeeren. He is the producer and director of 3 out of the top 10 personal development movies ever made: the Opus, the Gratitude Experiment, and the Treasure Map. And now he is revealing his new hit film, How Thoughts Become Things. And this film is absolutely fantastic. We'll be talking about it today. First off, Doug, I want to give you a big welcome. I'm so honored to have you on the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Paula. It's good to be here with you.
Thank you so much. Oh, gosh. Well, for everyone, let's start with maybe a bit more of your background. I know that you have multiple outlets. You've been on multiple TV networks, everything. Tell us a bit about a little more about your history and really what kind of brought you to where you are and wanting to create this new film.
Sure. Well, I guess my background is I didn't have a background in any kind of personal development at all. My parents weren't really aware of it when they raised us, but they did their best. They did great. They taught us basically the poverty pattern, which is get into the rat race, work really hard, and do your best, trading time for money. So when I was about 19, someone gave me the book Think and Grow Rich for the very first time. And for those of you who are familiar with the book, you'll remember that Napoleon Hill went out and he interviewed more than 400 of the world's top achievers, people like Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, the Rockefellers, and so forth. So when I read that book, I decided to do the same. So I went out and I started interviewing some of the world's top achievers, and I got to some really big names, people that everyone knows. And the cool thing is since then, people started asking me to come out and speak about it. So for example, what did someone like Richard Branson tell you? Or what did Oprah Winfrey tell you? And so I'd come out and I'd speak about that. And now I'm a regular on Fox and CNN and ABC and a variety of others. They call me the modern day Napoleon Hill, which is kind of fun. And because of that, we've decided to do these movies because number one, I believe that movies, media, entertainment, it's the future. But I also think that the people that I interviewed had so much to teach that unfortunately doesn't always make it into the books and the seminars that are there. So I like to give them a chance to share their own story so people can experience exactly what I did as I was being mentored by some of these amazing people.
Oh, and I can only imagine what that was like to be mentored by such amazing people. Oh,
well, it made a massive difference in my life. In fact, one of the things that's remarkable now, some things in life we can't measure, right? We can't always measure, the quality of our relationships. We know if they're good or they're bad, but on a scale of 1 to 100, we can't always assign it a number, and it depends even what's happening that day. But the one thing that we can assign a number to is our finances. And as a 19-year-old, it just changed my total world on how I looked at things. And inside of 6 months, under some of this mentorship, I was able to do $1.6 million as a 19-year-old without a business, without any other kind of background. And that comes out to be about $9,000 a day. And so as you can imagine, out of all the things, my feelings of self-worth, my feelings of self-esteem, my feelings of spirituality, my connections to others and relationships that I had, everything just blossomed because I was learning from these masters, right? These people who are so insightful. And so again, that's what we're trying to share in these movies. So I think we're getting there. I hope it helps.
Yes, and you do. Oh my gosh, there were some amazing messages in the movie. Just fantastic. And I have to share one of my favorites. I have to talk about this because I just loved it. It was something that Dennis Waitley said, and he referred to the brain is freeways and roads, and our thoughts are the traffic. Oh my gosh, I love that.
Isn't it? Dennis has been such a good friend. In fact, I tease him and I call him my adopted grandpa, but he is just so awesome. He is just incredible.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, that is just too fun. And really, it is so true. It is so
Mm,
true. Our thoughts are our traffic. That
yeah.
takes us with the direction we're going to go.
Well,
It's,
there's a lot of valuable lessons that are in that film, and I'm glad you picked up on that particular one. And for those that watch the film, we're finding that there's so many different lessons depending on sort of what you're ready to hear, what will resonate with you. But one of my favorite lessons from the film, which I think is kind of neat, is even just taking the title, how thoughts, right, become things, right? And I think the thing that when most people are looking at this, like the average person, they oftentimes focus on this side of the equation. They often focus on thoughts. And especially right now, people are saying, what do we do about this fear? What do we do about doubt? I always have these challenges. How do I control my thoughts? How do I always think positive? And so thoughts are really something we think a lot about. But the other thing everybody thinks about is the things, right? I want to get that new car, that new house, that perfect relationship. Why won't the kids listen to me? That's a thing I want, right? All these things. And the truth is we are all human. So our thoughts, we're always going to, regardless of what we're doing, we're going to find varying degrees of success in controlling our thoughts. Anytime we have a powerful thought, right behind it, there's always some kind of a sense of fear or a question mark around ourselves. So that will always be part of being human. But this idea of things, your thoughts really don't create things. The truth is everything that you already want exists in some form, right? If you want the new Ferrari, it's already out there. Even things that you want to invent or come up with, the problems or the questions or the challenges, those already exist too. So if we listen carefully, the thought will come in that creates that, right? Yes. But this is the most important column that most people are missing. And that's the how thoughts become things. So how do we find the thoughts that will empower us? How do we use the systems and strategies and ideas to tap into our greatest brilliance, right? And then I love this one, this idea of become, right? Jim Rohn once said that if a person wins the lottery, they have to become a millionaire really quickly in order to keep it and receive it. And so I think if we look at this, become really has to do with the change that we have to make in our life. I love the idea in our film, Bob Proctor's talking about, and he talked about this in The Secret too, that everything vibrates at frequencies. And if you want to be connected to something, whether, again, it's a better relationship or maybe even abundance, whatever it is, you just simply need to align and raise to that frequency so you're on the right level. Yeah. And this is what most people have a hard time is, how do I become what I need to become in order to be on that same level, right? And so that's one of the strongest lessons from the film for me, I think, is the how and the become. And if I can give one little bit of advice, that most of us have programming, most of us have beliefs already, most of us have things that are habitual, things that we do all the time. If you want to know the quickest way to really change that becoming, most people think it's really all in here, but a lot of times it's also what we allow to influence us. So when I interviewed the 400 of the world's top achievers, I didn't know what I didn't know. But as I began to spend more time with them, that idea that your network equals your net worth, it's not just the money, it's that my network had a new sense of what was of worth. What did they value? So my network becomes what I value. And you will see that your values and the things that are most important to you will rise as you change and level up to the people that you want. And naturally, that saying of, becoming the combination or the median of the 5 people you spend the most time with, I think there's truth to that. We think about what really gets put into our mind, what those around us help us to see as possible and to believe in ourselves. And so I think that's one big challenge I would leave with your audience is the first thing that you need to do if you want to level up your thoughts is a level up the people you're hanging out with and the things you're allowing influence you.
Yes. Oh, that's a powerful statement because, it's our choice to allow others and things around us to influence us. We choose where our thoughts are going to go and where we are going to rise in that frequency. I'm a huge fan of frequency, our vibration level. I've done speaking engagements on that because that is huge. Where we're at in where we ride in that level, when you're at a high vibration or frequency, so much positive manifestation and different things come into our lives, people you meet, things that happen. Really
well, it's interesting to notice too that, you know, one of the first things that ignites your vibrational frequency that a lot of people miss is just your approach to life in terms of this. In other words, we need to expand who we are before we can expand who we have. And if you think that the universe since the Big Bang has always been expanding, right? Like that's always been growing and it's always been reaching out. But too often, I think we as humans, we contract and we decide we're going to play small, we're going to play safe, we're going to play less risky, we're going to play in a zone where no one's going to be offended or those that are around us aren't going to be startled that we're doing really amazing things. So we always look for ways to contract and to play safe. Whereas in the universe rewards those that run in harmony with it. If you think again, the universe is expanding. Can you imagine standing in a river and trying to walk against the river? It's always hard to do. But most people do that with the entire universe. They fight against it, they walk against it, they resist and they hold back and they play small. So I'm going to suggest that with all of the influences in your life, and yes, certainly with the people, because I've experienced that personally, right? Like connecting to 400 of the world's top achievers, your mind cannot stay the same. You expand. But it's not just that. The question I would have is, what are you also watching for television programs? Where are you spending your time online and through social media? What kind of music are you listening to? And all of these things have a tendency to corrupt what I call corrupt your creativity, right? Your creativity is the force that leads to expansion. Everything against creativity is obviously destructive. So don't bring in sources that will corrupt your creativity. You've got to be really careful about that.
Oh, I love that. Yes, and bring in sources that are actually going to increase your creativity and spark your creativity. That's huge. And it really does make a difference what we allow to influence us, our music. Me personally, when I'm listening to my favorite songs in the car, it's like, oh my gosh, I know all the traffic around me is going, okay, she's happy, she's dancing. But,
well, it's kind of like you're on tour. You're a musician on tour, and if you're singing along with your music, you're really on tour, right? So go for it. Why not?
Yes, but I really believe our when we're creative, oh my gosh, that opens such a spark inside us. And with you talking
well, the interesting thing too
yeah.
is that creativity and fear cannot exist in the same space at the same time. I don't know if you knew that, but creativity and fear cannot exist in the same space. The other thing that's interesting is a handful of years ago, I got a chance to interview a psychologist on the idea around happiness, right? And he said that happiness actually cannot exist except, or it exists at its strongest point in the present. Meaning that we feel good about memories that we may have. We feel good about what a future may look like, but the strongest kind of happiness is always in the present, when we're fully present and we're enjoying that moment. And I think that this idea of creating, many people again say, you know, that was my glory days. Look at that, in the past what I did. And that's where they leave their creation. You know, my best days have already been. Or we see people who say the opposite, where they say, oh, the best is yet to come. And when I have this, that, and the other, I will then do it. And the problem is that most people make their decisions based on where they're, you know, really in the present, not where they want to go. So they often look at what they lack and they say, well, I'm not going to do something because I don't have enough time or enough money or enough opportunity. But the truth is, if they want to go to the future to have something better, they need to recognize that it doesn't really matter the gifts of the moment. It matters on how you use the moment. Right? And we build things with a hope and a possibility, not with a look at scarcity. And so whenever we're building from scarcity, let me put it this way, from a vibrational frequency point of view, you cannot attract abundance if you've got 1 foot in scarcity and 1 foot in abundance. You just can't ever attract abundance. You must be fully in and fully committed and fully believing. And how do you know if someone's truly abundant? It's because they take action in hopeful ways. They don't make excuses. Right? Scarcity manifests itself always in terms of excuses, jealousy, comparison, contrast, or criticism. Those are always the way that scarcity manifests itself. And by the way, I'm not saying just to criticize or be jealous of other people. Sometimes we even criticize ourselves, and that's a form of scarcity. We say that I don't know enough, I don't have enough, I haven't prepared enough, I don't, et cetera, et cetera. And so we need to be believing enough to be fully into that area of abundance. And when we really start operating from abundance, that's when we start becoming something different, right?
Yes.
We've got to understand that there's really no such thing in life as a problem. Everything is a puzzle, and there is an answer for a puzzle. And so if we're prepared to go out and seek that, we can. And by the way, the solution to those puzzles, quite frankly, don't always come from you. They come also from those that you're associated with. And that's the one thing that I love. You know, a lot of the teaching I do is how to expand and build your network at a higher level. Well, that's why they call me the modern day Napoleon Hill. It's all about networks. And everybody talks again about your network being your net worth. And that's so true. But there's something even bigger than that. And that's that your network is also your safety net. Meaning that they help you solve the problems. They cover all the things that you're experiencing. They help you see possibilities. They give you opportunities and invites. They help you to like really do so many things that I think we take for granted. So remember, your number one value skill that you'll ever develop is learning how to create and maintain high-level relationships.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I love what you mentioned about, you know, happiness can be based on, well, when I have this, when I accomplish that. And you're losing the happiness you can have in the moment of now while you're creating it.
Well, it's so interesting that you talk about happiness because most people have the definition of happiness incorrect anyways. And you probably heard them say happiness is a choice, right? Well, the truth is there are a lot of choices that people make that they think were pretty good in the moment they were making the choice. In fact, you can almost guarantee that any choice based on immediate gratification will always make you upset in the end. It will never give you what you want. So happiness is not a choice. Happiness is actually making a choice, but it leads to a consequence that you're at peace with, or you're happy with, or you're delighted with, or brings you joy, or allows you to expand future, right? Because some choices don't allow for expansion. In fact, a couple of years ago, I was speaking at a maximum security prison in North Carolina, and those people there had made some choices. That one gentleman I spoke with, he says, in the moment that he murdered someone, in the moment that I was involved in that rage, I thought I was doing the right thing. I was making a choice that I thought was good for my future. But naturally, the short-sightedness, the impulsiveness didn't create something that expanded. Now he has a very small room measuring 10 by 10 feet, and he shares it with one other person, and together they have, you know, one toilet, one sink, a couple of books to read, and that's the end of their day, right? So we've got to understand that happiness, by definition, is making a choice and enjoying the consequence. It has to be a consequence that we feel good about.
Yes, yes. And would you say when we make these choices and then we're in that consequence, hopefully that's a positive, but if it's not, we can make new choices to create positive, can't we?
Yeah. Yeah. I think also our choices, what's really kind of neat is it makes us aware, right? Makes us aware of other choices. Now, here's something interesting too. We were talking about in the beginning that I interviewed 400 of the world's top achievers. I'm certainly far beyond 400 interviews now. But as you can imagine, when you interview 400 people, there's some very common things that begin to appear again and again and again. And I found that a lot of the things that I've learned are actually sometimes at odds with what a lot of the popular gurus are teaching today. And so I'm not saying that what they're sharing is not successful for some people, but it's not really what the top achievers do. Okay. Now, when I went out and I interviewed the top achievers, I actually got to one specific lady that I think really just literally, let's call it like it is. She rocked my world with something that she said. And I decided, well, let me tell you who she is first. So most people, if I asked you to go out and study change, you'd probably go to psychologists or some of the major gurus that do transformational, you know, seminars and all these things. I decided I didn't want to go with any of that. I wanted to go to somebody who actually affects the biggest change in the shortest amount of time possible. And it didn't lead me to personal development. It led me actually to the people who man the suicide hotlines. In fact, if you think about it, this lady who I interviewed, she trained all the suicide hotline workers from across North America. And what she really, you know, her obstacle, let's talk about this. People are calling in. They're in a massive point of despair. They feel like they've got, you know, no hope. no options. Some of them, when they call in, they've already taken pills, or maybe they've got a gun, or some of them are even sitting there with a rope on their neck as they're talking with people. This is serious stuff. So I'm not talking about going to a weekend seminar. By the time you get out after 3 days, you're changed. I'm talking about this lady knows how to change somebody like that. You have to. In one phone call, inside of 10 minutes, you need to get somebody safe. And so I said, okay, so how do you do this? And she said to me, out of all the things that we could tell someone, there's one thing we cannot say. And I was like, okay, you've got my attention. What's that? She says, we cannot say, don't kill yourself. And I was like, what? For me on the suicide hotline, that would be the very first thing I would say to someone, right? And she said, well, the reason we can't say that is because it continues to take away their choices. They call the suicide hotline because they don't feel like they have a choice. They need to take their life. This is their only option. And if I tell them, don't kill yourself, I've told them that they still don't have an option. Here's don'ts. Don't. This is what I'm telling you not to do. And so she said, instead, what we do is we give them their power back by showing them choice. And she said, it's like this. When they call and say, I want to kill myself, they say, well, you know what? You could do that, but here's what it looks like. Or you could call and get help, and you're doing that now, and that's what this looks like. Or this, and that's what this looks like. And she said, the more choices we give back to them, the more possibilities they see, the more power returns to them. Now, I'm not saying that they take every choice that they have, and neither will you, but the more choices that you see, the more powerful you become. And so with everything, whether it's, even just talking about the subject of thoughts becoming things. And right now I feel so bad because there's so many people who are struggling in the world because of the virus that they can't go out and gain the employment that they need. Their families are financially suffering. They can't have the relationship connections. I was just chatting actually with a lady who hasn't seen her grandchildren in like a month. I've got another friend of mine in the Philippines that was actually separated from his family. And so his wife and his children are in one part of the world, but he got locked down before he could get home, right? So there's a lot of people in these difficult circumstances where right now it's difficult to think positive in some circumstances, right? But back to this idea, even when it seems like all is lost, and we have no options, and things are at ultimate despair and the most dismal place that they can possibly be, if we'll take a moment and we'll recognize the things that we can still choose, our power will slowly return back to us. And the more choices that we begin to see, the more power we have. And here's the interesting thing, going back to this idea on networks again, your choices don't necessarily have to come from you. Some of my best opportunities in the world have come because those that I've been close to, or those that care about me, or those that I have business relationships with, or those that are involved in my life in some capacity, have presented to me choices I was not aware of. And oftentimes it's, like I said at the beginning, it's made me a lot of money, but the money is kind of the irrelevant part. What it's really made for me is a more complete me. It's allowed me to expand, as we've talked about.
Yes. Oh, Doug, gosh. Well, before we say goodbye, please tell everyone where they can see this movie when it's released. Anything you want.
It is released.
Share. Oh, it is?
Yeah, it's out right now. It's been out for a little while. So I can just show you right here on this banner.
Yes.
How Thoughts Become Things. That's the name of the movie. And if you just type in www.howthoughtsbecomethings.com, you will find the movie. And in that movie, I'm so pleased to share that not only do we have Dennis Waitley, who you've talked about, but we've got Bob Proctor, John Osroff, John DeMartini, Marie Diamond, Bob Doyle, many of the personalities from The Secret that you saw before. In this film, we continue the conversation and show you now, not just that thoughts do become things, but how. And most importantly, how you can become on the same vibrational level as the things that you want in life. So everything can flow, whether it's better relationships, whether it's financial abundance, whether it's health, whether it's a connection to yourself or improved spirituality or whatever it is that you want. It's all there for you. It exists and it's waiting for you. It is waiting for you. And all you really have to do now is understand how to really become what you need to tap into it and have it flow to you freely. It's amazing. So head over to the website, howthoughtsbecomethings.com.
I love it. I love it. It's a fantastic movie. I enjoyed it so much. And I just have to give you a heartfelt thank you, Doug, for creating this movie, because it's going to change lives, honey. It's going to help so many people.
Well, thank you. And we had such a fun time making it. I'm really so grateful for the opportunity to share it now with you. But yeah, wow. Just please enjoy it, and I hope it can be of service to you.
Thank you. With about 2 minutes left, what last words do you want to share with everyone, Doug?
Wow. I think the biggest thing that I hope we all remember is that I don't want you to step out of your comfort zone. I want you to step into your brilliance zone. What are you most excited about? What are you most passionate about? What is it that causes you to feel expansive? What is it that causes you to be fearless, to be confident, and what is your legacy for the world? So don't worry about the things that are uncomfortable. That's fine. They'll always be there. Worry about the things that you're brilliant about. What are you here to do? What are you here to contribute? That's your mission. Get on it.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. I'm just so honored to have you on the show. Everyone out there, thank you for joining us. Love, hugs, and blessings. Doug, love, hugs, and blessings. I'd love to have you on again. I really would.
Love to do it. Yep. Just let me know. I'm happy to support.
We will do it. Thank you so much, everyone.